On October 16, 1946, at 1:10 in the morning inside a gymnasium at Nuremberg prison, Joachim von Ribbentrop stepped onto the gallows. He was Hitler's foreign minister, the architect of Nazi diplomacy, the man who signed treaties, shook hands with world leaders, and helped ignite the deadliest war in human history. Minutes later, he was dead. His body was cremated. His ashes were scattered into a river, deliberately, so no grave could ever become a shrine. That was supposed to be the end of the story. Justice delivered. A chapter closed. But here is what history rarely tells you. While Ribbentrop's body disappeared, his family did not fall with him. They kept the fortune. They kept the social standing. They kept the freedom to spend decades rewriting his legacy. The execution was meant to punish a man. What happened next reveals the limits of justice itself. Annelies von Ribbentrop was not a passive bystander in her husband's rise. Before Joachim was a Nazi minister, he was a champagne salesman with grand ambitions. Socially hungry, politically flexible, desperate to matter. It was Annelies who opened doors. Historians note that she introduced him to elite circles, encouraged his political alignment, and pushed him toward the Nazi Party when it became clear that power in Germany now flowed in only one direction. Without her influence, there may never have been a foreign minister Ribbentrop at all. After the war, Allied forces detained her briefly, ironically at Dachau, a former concentration camp now repurposed as an internment site. For a moment, it appeared she might face consequences. Across occupied Germany, denazification tribunals processed thousands of cases. Wives of high-ranking officials sat in camps, waiting to learn whether they would be prosecuted, stripped of assets, or banned from public life. But Annelies walked free. No tribunal, no charges, no confiscation. Why? Because her wealth did not come from Nazism. It came from her father, Otto. Henkel, founder of Henkel and Company, one of Germany's oldest and most prestigious champagne houses, established in 1832, a century before Hitler. The Allies could execute her husband for crimes against peace. They could erase his remains from the earth. But they could not legally touch an inheritance that predated the regime. So while other Nazi families lost property, status, and protection, Annelies von Ribbentrop returned to civilian life wealthy and untouched. The wife of the first man hanged at Nuremberg never answered for her role in putting him there. Freedom was not enough. Beginning in 1953, Annelies launched a public campaign not of mourning but of rehabilitation. Over the next 3 decades, she published 4 books, each designed to reframe history. Not subtly, not cautiously, openly. Her first book, Between London and Moscow, appeared just 7 years after her husband's execution. It portrayed him as a misunderstood diplomat trapped between hostile powers. She followed with Conspiracy Against Peace, 1962, German-English Secret Connections, 1967, and finally War Guilt of the Resistance in 1975. That final title revealed how far she was willing to go. She was no longer just defending her husband. She was blaming German resistance figures, the very people who tried to stop Hitler, for the war itself. In far-right circles, she became a symbol, the loyal widow who refused to accept the verdict of history. She received the Ulrich von Hutten Medal, an award issued by a group founded by Hitler's former press chief. Annelies von Ribbentrop died in 1973, at age 77, unpunished, unrepentant, wealthy to the end. She had outlived her husband by 27 years, spending most of them insisting he had done nothing wrong. Rudolf von Ribbentrop had choices. As the son of Hitler's foreign minister, he could have avoided combat entirely. A quiet diplomatic post, a safe administrative role. Instead, in 1941, at age 20, he volunteered for the Waffen-SS, not the regular army, but the ideological core of the regime. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to earn honor independently of his father's name. And he did. Rudolf received the Knight's Cross, the German cross in gold. He was wounded 5 times on the Eastern Front. By Nazi standards, he was a decorated soldier. Then came 1945. When Allied forces captured him, they did not treat him as an ordinary POW. He was held as a suspected war criminal. The accusation was severe, that Rudolf von Ribbentrop had shot 2 Canadian prisoners of war during an interrogation. Not in battle, not by accident. For 3 years, he remained in custody while investigators searched for proof. 3 years knowing he could follow his father to the gallows. But the case collapsed. Witnesses disagreed. Evidence was insufficient. In 1948, Rudolf walked free. No trial, no conviction, no punishment. But freedom brought another problem. His name was toxic. Who would hire a Ribbentrop in post-war Germany? In 1952, a German court issued one of the most astonishing rulings of the post-war era. It ordered Henkel and Company, the Champagne empire inherited by his mother, to accept Rudolf von Ribbentrop as a full partner. Not by merit, not by family consent, by law. The son of the first Nazi hanged at Nuremberg became a Champagne executive by judicial decree. The Henkel family had survived 2 world wars. Now they were legally bound to share their business with a man whose name symbolized everything Germany wanted to bury. Rudolf proved competent. He lived quietly, avoided publicity, but he never escaped the shadow. In 2008, at age 87, he published a memoir, Measured, Restrained, Still Defensive. Rudolf von Ribbentrop died in 2019, at 98 years old. He had outlived the Third Reich by 74 years. Joachim von Ribbentrop had 5 children. Most disappeared into silence. Bettina, born 1922, faded entirely from public life. Ursula, born 1932, built a quiet existence away from scrutiny. Adolf, born 1935, became an art gallery owner and married into respectable society. And then there was Harold, born in 1940. Some records say he died in infancy. Others show photographs dated later. If he survived, he vanished so completely that historians lost him. The family mansion in Berlin-Dahlem once hosted diplomats and Nazi elites. After the war, it was confiscated. Today, it houses an international school. Children study mathematics where Nazi foreign policy was once planned. The building was transformed. The money was not. The Nuremberg trials proved something the world had never seen before, that ministers, architects of war, and men who once moved empires with a signature could be reduced to defendants and hanged. Joachim von Ribbentrop, Hitler's foreign minister, was one of them. At 1:10 a.m., the trapdoor opened. The man who negotiated invasions, betrayals, and alliances fell into silence. But Nuremberg revealed another truth, one far less comfortable. Justice stopped at the gallows. Ribbentrop's wife was never imprisoned. She returned to civilian life, untouched by the verdicts read in the courtroom. His son grew up, educated, sheltered, carrying a famous name but no sentence. The family wealth, accumulated through proximity to power, largely survived, dispersed, protected, rebranded. The system punished the face of the crime, not the ecosystem that sustained it. The regime was dismantled on paper, yet the social structures, fortunes, and networks that fed it quietly adapted and endured. The men died. The machinery learned how to hide. And that leaves a question history rarely confronts honestly. What does justice mean when execution satisfies the public, but inheritance survives untouched? When accountability ends with a body, while privilege passes intact to the next generation? When the architects fall, but the foundations remain standing? The gallows took Joachim von Ribbentrop, but everything that made his rise possible, and everything his family gained from it,